The Disappearing Passengers, a Tale of Train Terror. It was a cold, moonless night as the last train of the evening pulled into the desolate Blackwood Station. The station itself looked like it had seen better days, with chipped paint and broken windows. The platform was eerily quiet, except for the distant, mournful hoot of an owl. Only a handful of passengers had disembarked from the train, each wrapped in heavy coats to ward off the chill. Among them was Sarah, a young woman traveling alone. Sarah had chosen this late-night train for its promise of solitude. She had a long journey ahead and wanted to avoid the crowds. As she stepped onto the platform, the train conductor, a grizzled man with a crooked smile, greeted her. "Welcome to Blackwood Station, miss," he said. "You're the last one off. The train will be heading back soon." Sarah nodded, feeling a shiver run down her spine. There was something unsettling about the station, an eerie silence that seemed to press in on her. She quickly moved toward the exit, glancing back at the train. As she turned to leave, she noticed something strange. The train's windows were fogged, making it impossible to see inside. Sarah hesitated, but then shrugged it off as a quirk of the old locomotive. She walked out of the station and onto the dimly lit platform. There was no one else around, and the station felt deserted. Sarah had been waiting for her read to arrive, but as the minutes ticked by, anxiety began to gnaw at her. She glanced at her watch. It had been nearly 10 minutes since the train had arrived. Surely, her ride should have been here by now. Just as she was about to reach for her phone to call for a cab, she heard it, the unmistakable sound of footsteps coming from behind her. She turned to see a man approaching. He was tall, with a long overcoat that billowed around him as he walked. Relieved, Sarah greeted him. "Hi, are you my ride? I've been waiting here for a while." The man didn't respond. He simply walked past her, his footsteps echoing ominously through the empty station. Sarah felt a sense of unease wash over her. She turned to see if anyone else was around, but the platform was still empty. She decided to follow the man, who had now reached the train. The conductor was there too, his crooked smile wider than before. Sarah's heart raced as she watched the man board the train, disappearing into the fogged windows. "Wait!" Sarah called out, her voice trembling. "Where are you going?" The conductor turned to her, his smile now stretching impossibly wide, revealing rows of sharp teeth. "They're all aboard," he said, his voice dripping with malice. "It's time for the journey." Before Sarah could react, the conductor pulled a lever and the train's doors slammed shut. The locomotive let out a bone-chilling whistle and the train started moving, picking up speed with an unnatural jolting force. Desperation surged through Sarah as she realized that she was trapped on the train, hurtling through the dark, foggy night with no way to escape. She pounded on the windows, but they were sealed shut, and the fog outside grew thicker, obscuring everything. As the train raced on, Sarah felt a presence all around her. She could hear faint whispers, voices coming from nowhere and everywhere at once. The other passengers, the ones who had vanished into the fogged windows, were now speaking to her, their words chilling to the bone. "Join us, Sarah," they whispered. "Join us on this never-ending journey." The train hurtled forward, the landscape outside growing more and more surreal. Time seemed to warp and twist, and Sarah couldn't tell how long she had been on the train. The passengers' whispers grew louder, their faces appearing in the fogged windows, their eyes hollow and filled with despair. Sarah realized, with a sinking feeling, that she had become one of them, the disappearing passengers trapped on the cursed train. And as the train sped onward into the endless night, she knew that she would never escape the terror of Blackwood Station. Days turned into nights, and nights into an unending darkness as the cursed train continued its relentless journey through an otherworldly realm. Sarah, now a part of the vanishing passengers, had lost all sense of time and direction. The train seemed to exist outside the boundaries of reality, hurtling through a nightmarish landscape of twisted trees, skeletal remains, and ghostly apparitions. The passengers who had disappeared into the fogged windows had become grotesque specters. their forms shifting and contorting in unnatural ways. They whispered ceaselessly, their voices a cacophony of despair and madness. Sarah tried to shut them out, but their words clawed at her mind, driving her to the brink of madness. As she wandered through the train's dimly lit carriages, she encountered other lost souls like herself. Their faces were etched with terror and resignation, and they too had become trapped in this nightmarish limbo. They spoke of futile attempts to escape, of running through the train, pounding on windows, and trying to force open doors, all in vain. The conductor, the sinister figure, who had lured her aboard, appeared at random intervals, his crooked smile never wavering. He taunted the passengers, relishing in their torment. "This is your fate," he hissed. "You will ride this train for all eternity." Sarah's sense of hope dwindled with each passing moment, but a flicker of determination still burned within her. She couldn't accept this twisted reality as her fate. She needed to find a way out, to break the curse that bound her and the other passengers to this hellish locomotive. One night, as the train hurtled through a particularly eerie landscape of floating islands and upside-down trees, Sarah noticed something different. The fogged windows began to clear, revealing a glimmer of daylight on the horizon. It was just a faint, distant speck of hope, but it was enough to rally her spirits. She rallied the other passengers who shared her desire to escape, and they formulated a plan. They would confront the conductor and demand answers about the curse that bound them. Gathering their strength, they made their way to the front of the train, where the conductor's compartment was located. As they approached, the conductor's malevolent grin widened. "You cannot escape," he hissed. "This train is eternal, and so are you." But Sarah and the other passengers refused to be cowed. They pressed him for information about the curse, about any possible way to break free from this nightmare. The conductor's smile faltered for a moment, and he finally relented, revealing the grim truth. "The curse can only be broken if one passenger willingly takes my place as the conductor," he said, his voice quivering. "But that means they will be bound to this train forever, just as I am." Sarah knew what had to be done. She stepped forward, her heart heavy but resolute. "I'll do it," she declared. "I'll become the conductor and free the others." The conductor's eyes widened in shock, and for the first time, he looked almost human. He handed her his tarnished pocket watch, the source of his cursed power. As Sarah accepted the watch, a surge of energy coursed through her, and she felt herself transforming. The passengers watched in astonishment as Sarah took the conductor's place, her face contorted with the burden of her new role. With a final mournful whistle, the train came to a halt. The other passengers disembarked, their expressions a mix of gratitude and sorrow. Sarah remained trapped within the train, her eternal duty to shepherd lost souls on their nightmarish journey. But she did so with the hope that one day someone else would come forward to break the curse, just as she had. And as the train disappeared into the fog once more, she whispered a promise to herself: "I will not let this terror endure forever." Years passed, and Sarah's existence as the conductor of the cursed train became a haunting routine. She watched countless souls board the train, heard their desperate pleas, and saw the terror in their eyes as they realized the fate that awaited them. It was a never-ending cycle of torment, and she carried the burden of their suffering on her shoulders. But as time flowed differently within the train, Sarah's determination to end the curse grew stronger. She had learned the secrets of the train's twisted dimensions and the dark magic that bound it. Armed with this knowledge, she plotted her escape. One fateful night, a passenger boarded the train who was different from the rest. His name was David, a scholar of the occult and a seeker of forbidden knowledge. David had heard of the cursed train and its tragic history, and he believed he could find a way to break the curse once and for all. Sarah, her heart heavy with hope, approached David. She whispered her story and shared the secrets she had learned during her time as the conductor. David listened intently, his eyes filled with a mixture of fascination and determination. Together, Sarah and David worked tirelessly to unravel the ancient curse. They pored over old texts, conducted rituals, and delved deep into the darkest corners of the train's history. The whispers of the passengers, once haunting, became their guides, leading them toward the key that would unlock the train's dreadful enchantment. Months turned into years, but Sarah and David never wavered. And finally, one moonless night, as the train hurtled through the desolate landscape, they discovered the spell that could sever the curse. It was a perilous incantation that required tremendous sacrifice, but they were willing to pay the price. With trembling hands and unwavering determination, they recited the incantation. The train shuddered and groaned as if in agony, and the ancient curse began to unravel. The fogged windows cleared, revealing the familiar lights of Blackwood Station in the distance. The train came to a jarring halt, and the passengers were freed from their spectral prison. They disembarked, their expressions a mix of relief and disbelief, disappearing into the night. Sarah, her duty fulfilled, felt the weight of the curse lift from her. But David, the scholar who had helped her break the curse, had paid the ultimate price. He had sacrificed his own soul to undo the dark magic that had bound the train for centuries. As the first rays of dawn broke over the horizon, Sarah stood alone on the platform of Blackwood Station. The cursed train had vanished, and the station was bathed in a warm, gentle light. Tears filled her eyes as she whispered a heartfelt thanks to David, the one who had given everything to free her and the countless souls who had suffered. With a heavy heart, Sarah knew that her journey was far from over. She would spend the rest of her days seeking out lost and cursed places, helping to free trapped souls and right the wrongs of the past. But she did so with the knowledge that she had broken the curse of the disappearing passengers, and she had done so with the help of a brave scholar who had been willing to make the ultimate sacrifice for the greater good.